Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:07 here on this Friday morning. Thank you so much for doing a ride-along with us as we get her done for you on O'Connor and Company. At 8:05, Dina Griffiths from Loudoun County School Board, as the powers that be out there want to change the names of elementary schools. We'll get into the details of that. And at 8:35, Brett Baer of Fox News Channel. I'm Larry O'Connor with the effervescent and pretty in pink, Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning and happy Friday, everyone.
Yes, it is absolutely a Friday. And it's an extra yay because we bring in one of our favorite guests, Jonna Spilbor. Sorry, we only get Jonna in when we've got a major high-profile trial, but that seems to be all the time. So good. Jonna Spilbor, you can get information on her at jonnaspilbor.com. Good morning, Jonna.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, happy Friday to all.
So you obviously you follow high-profile trials on a regular basis, is what you do when you're not actually arguing high-profile cases in court. And there's a lot of news going on this week, but if you watch cable news, everything is about a porn star testifying about her private relationship with Donald Trump. I want to get your analysis on the cross-examination yesterday because I don't think it went well for the actress now known as Stormy Daniels. But can you also explain sort of the legal relevance of the details that have come out here? Because my understanding is this is actually a falsifying financial records case that is now being wrapped into some sort of election campaign finance question, which is still yet to be proven as well. Why does the nature of how Stormy Daniels met Donald Trump and allegedly had this romantic involvement, how does that bear on the financial records question?
It did not bear on the financial records question. And really what we saw this week, and what a week it was, Stormy Daniels, her testimony essentially backfired big time on the prosecution. We all know, everybody who's been paying attention to this trial knows, the only reason she was called as a witness in the prosecution's case was for the purpose of embarrassing Donald Trump. They wanted to get this image of her on the stand. They wanted to get her salacious, what I'm calling sextimony, not testimony, out on the record to relive and revisit the whole scene from 8 years ago, because this prosecution is completely politically motivated. But here's what happened, though. They put her on the stand. The judge tried to, he's not made any good rulings for the defense of this entire trial. He tried to put these sort of guardrails in place so that she wasn't going to be able, we thought, to go into the salacious details. And the prosecution ran roughshod over that, and Stormy Daniels was so happy to retell her entire story, but it backfired on the prosecution big.
So what can we look forward to next? Who are some of are there any more high-profile witnesses to expect, or is it going to be just Michael Cohen, and then that's going to be the end of the prosecution's witness list?
And I would consider Michael Cohen a high-profile witness. So here's what happened. Because Stormy Daniels had her credibility crushed, and I think so much so that the tables have turned, and somebody, at least one person in that jury, you guys, has to see the forest through the trees at this point and say, why were we forced to listen to this testimony? Because the prosecution got schooled on that, they took what was going to be another high-profile witness off the list, Karen McDougal. She was another one, right? So she was on the list. She's off the list. So really the only thing left for the prosecution to present is Michael Cohen, who they want the world to believe is going to have some sort of smoking gun. He's the quote-unquote star witness, the linchpin. He's not going to have any of that. He is the clown at the end of this rodeo. And you know what, Larry? You said something that's very important that I want to bring up for people. The fact that we are here at all is interesting because the prosecution has presented no evidence of a crime. In order for us to be in this courtroom, in order for these 34 charges to be felonies, the prosecution needs to show that Donald Trump falsified records for the purpose of concealing or committing another crime. Yeah. There's no evidence that there was any other crime. There's no campaign. Everybody keeps thinking there's some campaign finance crime. There's not. The prosecution has slapped a label on this case as if it were a crime without proving a crime. That's just egregious.
I'm old-fashioned, but I thought you had to prove that sort of thing during the indictment process,
Yeah.
during the grand jury process, but I guess not. Jonna Spilbor, could you said that the prosecution got schooled. Can you give us a couple of details as to how this backfired on them yesterday and what you think led them to now pull out the other woman, the woman who was a Playboy model, from the witness list?
Yeah. So the prosecution was arguing that Stormy Daniels was necessary to give context to this whole quote-unquote conspiracy. But and so they let her, even though the judge said, all right, all we're going to hear from is that they had sex. I'll allow that testimony, but I don't want to hear about it.
Jeez.
The prosecution ignored that, and Stormy Daniels, who was just dying to tell her story, got up on the stand, and on cross-examination, her credibility was crushed in this way. First of all, the defense team, Team Trump, pointed out that she has an axe to grind and would love Donald Trump to go to jail because why? You guys probably don't remember. She owes Donald Trump $500,000 in legal fees and costs that she does not want to pay, and she's gone on social media to say she's never going to pay. So
we do
jail,
remember that for sure. Yes.
Yeah, she thinks that bill goes away, but it doesn't. She also she's so motivated to make money. She has treated Donald Trump like her own personal lottery ticket since 2016, since this whole incident happened. She got paid for her quote-unquote hush money. She got paid $800,000 on a book deal. She sells merchandise. She's made more of her pornographic films. I won't even say the title. I don't even want to dignify it with a title. But she's made money all off of her, all off the relationship of Donald Trump. So the jury is listening to her going, wow, wait a minute. How come she's not the one on trial?
Exactly.
That's what I would be saying.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Well, and,
that's how they go schooled.
Can you also talk about just the difference in her testimony over the past couple of days? Because her first day of testimony, you would have thought that she was laying the groundwork for a sexual assault allegation, the way she tried to position herself as a victim. And then I guess that a lot of that seemed to have been walked back. What does that tell you?
That had to be walked back, yes. And it tells me that that's another reason why her credibility was crushed. Like she was trying to tell a whole other story, as if the public is going to get a whole other book out of her at the end of this day. But that really had nothing to do with anything. And even, like I said, Judge Merchan has not been kind to the defense at all. But even he, I think, at that point said, no, we cannot absolutely go here. But I will say I'm not defending Judge Merchan at all, because he has denied 2 motions to dismiss, which should have been granted. And in a perfect world, you guys, there should be a 3rd motion to dismiss when the people rest their case. And that honestly should be granted. And if it were any other defendant, it would be granted. But Judge Merchan will do what he does and probably deny it as well.
Jonna, we only have a minute left, but you're from that region. I keep saying all it takes is one juror to say, enough, guys, come on, and that's a hung jury. But based on what you're saying here, I mean, do you think there's even a chance that this jury will acquit? Do you think that this jury will say, no, the prosecution is out of control here? I mean, I think that's a pipe dream, but you know this better than I do.
From the beginning, I figured he was going to get convicted of something. It'll be wrongfully so. But I don't think, there's so many appealable issues here and so much reversible error that I think any sentence would be stayed so that he won't see the inside of a jail. So that would just be utterly ridiculous. And then by the time the appellate division and the Court of Appeals gets done doing what they'll do, we'll be halfway into the next Trump presidency, hopefully. So it really won't matter at that point.
It does seem, Politico had an article yesterday saying, hey, it looks like all these trials aren't hurting Donald Trump politically. In fact, they're helping. Jonna Spilbor,
thank you so much, Jonna.
By the way, Jonna, did you see Hillary Clinton railing about this on Morning Joe? And she's like, this hush money, that's outrageous. Do you think maybe in the history of the Clinton family, there may have been some non-disclosure agreements with women about Bill Clinton? It's just, we don't know for sure, but is there a hunch there?
Just a few. Yeah, she might be suffering from having a senior moment of her own there on that one. But.
To say the least. Thanks, Jonna. Always a great conversation. JonnaSpilbor.com.
Love you guys. Thanks.
It's 7:15 now, WMAL.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Traffic and weather brought to you by Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
On the next Vince Colonnese show, the media think that they have found another Trump scandal. But if it's true, it's great news for America. Join us 3 to 6 right here on WMAL.
When she's not trying to keep you from eating beef or driving a car or doing anything that you enjoy because, well, she's lying to you about the planet's doom, Greta Thunberg apparently spends the rest of her time flexing her anti-Semite muscles. There she was amongst throngs of pro-Hamas protesters swarming outside the hotel room where the contestant for Eurovision representing Israel was staying. This was the ugliest scene, honestly, in Europe, the ugliest anti-Semitic scene in Europe since the Third Reich.
Wow.
That's how you look at this swarming crowd. This poor woman she's a singer and she's representing her nation at Eurovision.
Okay.
She had to be escorted with a police escort to the theater where she performed. By the way, she made it to the finals. Her name is Eden Golan. She's a beautiful singer, great voice, and the votes were there for her, and she made it to the finals. But here's Greta Thunberg there amongst all the anti-Semites talking to the media.
I think they should be everywhere, and once again, young people are leading the way, showing the world how we should react to this.
Yeah, young people. It's not about the young
world.
people. Yeah, Patrice, Carol Markowitz, a great columnist at the New York Post, she points out this is all the same thing, from climate to
Black
BLM
Lives
and criminalizing justice to anti-Semitic to the Hamas. Carol says it's all the same thing. It's leftist cultural revolution, and so there she is.
If you wonder how the story of the Pied Piper, where a man with a flute was able to steal a bunch of kids and lead them, away from their parents' control, this is a great example of how cultural Marxism has brainwashed the minds of young people to march to whatever beat is relevant at the moment, whether it's the BLM, it's climate, or now in this case it's pro-Hamas terrorism. This is exactly what it looks like, and so the people funding this, they are also driving what's going on here. The foundations, the George Soros is of the world. It is all one agenda, and they will use whatever issue. That is why the so-called social justice of 2020 was a farce, because you cannot tell me anything about diversity, equity, and inclusion and fighting for the rights of people of different races and creeds, and then be out there talking about death to Jews, calling for beheadings, calling for the annihilation of the Jewish nation, calling for what they are calling for. That is not DEI. That is not inclusivity. No. That is violence.
It's bigotry. It's bigotry.
Absolute violent bigotry.
And again, they're supporting the people who are currently holding our innocent hostages and tormenting them and torturing them and slaughtered
babies
over 1,200
ovens,
people
who raped women incessantly, cut arms off hostages. Sorry,
Patrice, there's another part of this that I want you to chime in on real fast, though. The countries that qualified. And if you don't know Eurovision, and I don't blame you for not knowing Eurovision, but I'm a theater nerd, so I know this. All these countries perform. They bring in their favorite performer, and then the public votes. And the public vote. And that's very important, because the mob might be outside the hotel room for this poor woman, but the public supports Israel. The countries that made it through to the next round: Latvia, Austria, Netherlands, Norway, Israel, and Greece. Patrice, Greta Thunberg, Swedish girl, blonde, blue-eyed, white. She's wrapped herself in a keffiyeh while she's giving this interview, and you see that all the college kids who are getting dragged away, they've all got keffiyehs on, but they're all white or Asian in some case. But none of them are Middle Eastern, none of them are Palestinian, none of them are Muslim. Last I checked, isn't that cultural appropriation? I thought we weren't allowed to do that sort of thing, Patrice.
Well, usually no. If you Kim Kardashian has been dragged for wearing braids. But, and this is the qualifier, it becomes cultural appreciation if you go and do the homework. if you do the DEI homework of understanding the oppression of the people who wear this this plaid, frankly, I find it ugly, but this garb.
Almost a houndstooth situation.
It is, but not quite as nice. But in any case, if you do the homework or you parrot the right lines,
homework.
if you as a white person you let the other people of color lead, and then you're vociferous and you're loud and you're out there as an ally and you use the right words, jargon, then it's okay for you to wear it.
That's where it goes from cultural appropriation to cultural appreciation.
Listen.
Well,
I believe in appreciation. Go wear dreads if you want to. Love the cultures.
In my life, I have
terrorism.
done plenty of homework
Uh-huh.
with tequila, margaritas, chips and salsa, and guacamole. So I'm putting my sombrero back on.
Go for it.
It's 7:23.
How dare you?
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:36. It's O'Connor and Company, and we are so happy to be here for you every morning from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. And if you miss any of it, please subscribe to our podcast so you can get up to speed and hear all of our very important interviews. At 8:05, Dina Griffiths of Loudoun County School Board will talk about how they're trying to change the name of schools out there. And at 8:35, Brett Baer of Fox News Channel. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yes, Friday indeed. And speaking of very important interviews, I'm so pleased and proud to bring to your attention Eden Gafner. She is a survivor of the October 7th attacks in Israel, and she is telling her story today, the story that should be heard. She'll be at Shabbat Gainesville. ShabbatGainesville.com is where you can get the information. It's an event in Haymarket this weekend. And first of all, thank you so much for joining us and telling your story, Eden. I know it must be difficult every single time.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom for everyone. Yes, it's experience, super hard to experience those moments Saturday morning each time. But I feel that it's super important because I'm telling the story for the ones who couldn't survive Saturday morning. So
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but I have to tell the story.
Well, we do because, you hear about Holocaust deniers from, 75, 80 years ago, and they pretend that didn't happen. Here we're only looking at 7 months, and there are people who claim that October 7th didn't happen. You were visiting your parents at that kibbutz right near the music festival, and I can't even believe the words that are in front of me. You and your family hid in your attic for over a day while the attack took place. This is, talk about reminiscent of Anne Frank and the Holocaust, but that's exactly what you had to experience with with today's era Nazis coming after you.
Yes, you describe it exactly like an experience, because I remember that we got the message that the terrorists break into the kibbutz. So we said to ourselves, okay, the only option to survive it would be hide. So of course, my father, like my grandma, my grandpa and my grandma survived the Holocaust. So my father suggested, let's take the ladder and climb to the attic. And it's crazy because I remember looking on my mom and looking on my parents and just feeling that, wow, this is the Holocaust.
Wow.
Because the only option to survive is to hide from the new Nazis named Hamas, the organization, and you just pray for your life that some miracle will happen and you will survive it, because we didn't have a chance against them.
Yes.
We had 70 terrorists that break into my kibbutz in Saturday morning, and we have only 6 weapons against them.
Wow.
So you know that you need a miracle to survive it.
You do need a miracle, and I'm grateful that you got a miracle and you and your family survived. Talk to us about just the response of the international community. Have you been shocked, not just the protesters, but have you been shocked about with how other countries, even the United States government has approached October 7th and Israel's campaign to root out Hamas?
Yes, actually, I was really shocked because, you spoke about the Holocaust, about the people who denied Holocaust, and about anti-Semitism. But I experienced anti-Semitism in 2023 2024, and it's crazy for me because, like, after like I left the attic, I met so much hate and so much people that feel like that it is justified, that what's happening in my area is justified because we are Jews, because we're living in that area. But let me tell you something, like in Saturday morning that I wake up in my home, I didn't do nothing wrong. Me and all the people who living in Gaza envelope, and we believe all of our life we believe in peace, and we still believe in peace. So for me to see all this hate in the campuses and from the country that I used to visit, like I'm shocked because I feel that they taking the wrong side of the history now.
Eden Gafner will be telling her story live in person tomorrow, Saturday, at a Shabbat lunch, 12:45. This is at the Shabbat Center for Jewish Life in Greater Gainesville and Manassas. You can get more information at shabbatgainesville.com. Eden, as you know, I mean, there are protests that are still continuing, illegal protests on college campuses that represent the elite of American intellectualism and education. And you're 28 years old. Some of these young women, and the majority seems to be women, young women who are encamping and wearing keffiyehs like it's a fashion statement. And they are chanting chants that are exactly what these terrorists would chant to rid themselves of your country, of your people, of you from that region. And I wonder if you could just say something to these misguided children who really don't understand, I think, what they're supporting, who they're supporting, and the cause that they've aligned themselves with.
First, I will tell them, go educate yourself. Because if you support Hamas, if you support in this terror action, you actually call for intifada, and you need to go and educate it yourself. Because you support in a terror organization who slaughtered, who raped, who still abused in women in captivity. And I will tell all the people who support Hamas in campuses, who wear keffiyeh, come and visit us in Israel. Come and visit and see the reality in Israel. And then, like, make an opinion again. Because I'm feeling that those people, those young women and young men, like, have an opinion on base of nothing. So I tell them, come to Israel, come to experience how it's to live in Gaza envelope, come to experience how it's to live next to a terror organization, and then tell me what is right and what is wrong.
Eden Gafner, thank you so much for courageously telling your story and coming here to America to do so. And please let your friends, your family, and your fellow countrymen and women know that despite the words that you're hearing from the man who sits at the White House right now, he represents his administration, but he does not represent our country, and he certainly doesn't represent the majority of this nation and our people. We are with you. We are with Israel.
We are.
Thank you. It's so heartwarming to hear this word, because when I land here in New York, I see so much protest and so much hate to Israel and anti-Zionist, and it's so hard to see it. So thank you.
They are the minority.
It's been a long ride, and it's been somewhat bumpy sometimes since the formation of your great country, but America will always stand beside you, always. Thank you, Eden.
Thank you so much.
I think she just landed. She sounds like she's at the airport. It is, Patrice, I'm used to delivering weather reports every day, and sometimes we have severe storm watch warnings, right? And we have one to tell people, but it's not for D.C., it's not for Maryland and Virginia, it's not for the Chesapeake Bay area or the Mid-Atlantic or even for America or North America. This is a severe storm watch for the planet Earth.
Yikes.
It's been delivered by NOAA, and it is a G4 geomagnetic storm watch. It was put in effect late yesterday. It's the first alert since 2005, last time Earth was hit with a high dose of radiation. And
that sounds scary.
This could affect satellite usage. It could affect
electronic devices.
It could affect everything. At least 5 flares were associated with CMEs that appear to be Earth-directed. This is coming from the sun, Apparently, the sun has a bigger effect on our planet than, people driving SUVs and eating hamburgers.
Well, I will say there's a bright spot in all of this.
Sunspot.
Apparently, according to this reporting, it may drape a huge portion of the country in a spectacular circle of light, similar to an aurora. And if you've ever been to Alaska and you've seen the Northern Lights,
Sure.
It is. I think it's going to be similar to that.
It's like the Aurora Borealis. Interesting.
It is spectacular. I've seen it personally in Alaska. It is just breathtaking. So imagine if the rest of the country is able to experience that. I think that's going to be worth your cell phone shutting off for
Why does
few minutes.
part of me think that this is sort of like a distraction to blind us to the oncoming invasion of alien starships?
That could also be the case.
Could it? All right.
If while you see the beautiful light show in the sky, and then you get a tap on your shoulder for somebody someone in a huge giant suit with a helmet on.
Oh, good Lord. There you go. It's the end of the world as we know it. Thank you, REM.
Maybe.
There you go. First in nearly 20 years, severe geomagnetic storm today. It could screw up your mobile phone networks, your GPS satellites, and power grids, but it might look pretty. 7:54.